WNN. Talk 1470 is WWNN Pompano Beach and 95.3 FM W237BD Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
Want to lower your rate and payments, get rid of mortgage insurance, or get cash out? Find out about your best refinance options by tuning into the Get Mortgage Fit radio show with Alex Michaels and Carrie Kasem, Thursday afternoons from 1 to 2, where you'll learn everything you need to know about mortgage loans, today's rates, FHA, VA, and more. Call the Get Mortgage Fit show Thursday afternoons from 1 to 2 on WNN at 800-827-RATE, 800-827-RATE, or visit them online at newamericanfunding.com, NMLS 6606.
Everglades Angels Dog Rescue is dedicated to saving dogs abandoned in the Everglades. The urgency of reaching out to the community for financial contributions and dog adoption have greatly increased. Join us on Sunday, February 18th from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. at Anthony's Cold Fire Pizza, 115 Northeast 6th Avenue in Delray Beach, for a Give Back Sunday. 20% of all dine-in and carry-out will be donated back by mention of this promo. For more information or to make a donation, contact Everglades Angels Dog Rescue at 800-511-DOGS or evergladesangelsdogrescue.org.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. It's Monday night at 9 p.m. and time for Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers. Dr. Ricky Siegel is a certified sex therapist, educator, and supervisor, and his brother Larry Siegel is a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator. The Siegel brothers are here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality, but we're unsure who to ask, including questions you didn't even know you had. They will also welcome guests from around the globe to talk about a wide variety of topics and issues within the fascinating world of sexuality. Thank you for joining us, and welcome to Sex Talk.
Good evening. It's Monday night again, 9 p.m., time for Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers. My name is Dr. Ricky Siegel. I'm a certified sex therapist and director of Modern Sex Therapy Institutes.
And I am Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist, certified sexuality educator, and the director of training and education for Sage Institute for Family Development.
And faculty at Modern Institutes
And
as
faculty
well.
at Modern Institutes.
Indeed.
Yes.
Give a shout out. Shout out to my business partner, the brilliant Rachel Needle, West Palm Beach psychologist and sex therapist. Amazing pedigree. I really want to have Rachel and Mona in one night.
Yeah, that would really be, I think, a good show.
It's a wonderful mother-daughter team and a great story.
And on the topic of Modern Institute, why don't you tell people how to get a hold of you?
Terrific. Well, especially for psychotherapists or medical professionals, physicians, nurse practitioners, physical therapists who may be considering sexuality training and adding sexual medicine or sex therapy to your skill set. You can find all the information at www.modernsextherapyinstitutes.com. We are a multi-site training institute. We're currently in New York and Florida and Atlanta, D.C., Chicago, and we hope to be growing. I don't know if it's premature to announce. We'll be doing a training in Houston and working with the Sexual Health Alliance.
That might be a premature enunciation.
A premature enunciation, yes. Happy Black History Month to you.
That's right. That's right. It's February.
It is. Also want to give a nod to James Wadley, our guest back on the 15th, a couple of weeks ago. My co-editor. I'm proud to announce that the book is finished. Submitted to the publisher. James and I co-edited and we authored a couple chapters on the first ever textbook on sex therapy supervision.
Like birthing a baby.
Absolutely.
Except without all the pain.
Called The Art of
the
Sex
mess.
Therapy Supervision. And again, therapists out there, if you're interested in training, taking classes or full institute training to become certified as a sex therapist, or if you have that interest in supervision, then that book should be coming out in June or so. But I also want to give a shout out for James Wadley's conference coming up in April in St. Thomas, of all places. I'm really going to try. I really want to try and go. He is a founding member of the Association of Black Sexologists and Clinicians. There's also a journal, and this annual conference is always in great places. Took a lesson from us, right? Who wants to go to a training at the airport Hilton in Columbus, Ohio? We did trainings in Malibu and
we kind of follow the weather.
We just did trainings in places we wanted to go.
Exactly.
Wasn't the best way to make money, but we sure had a blast.
We had fun.
Yeah. So therapists who may be interested, the University of the Virgin Islands, St. Thomas campus, April 23rd and 24th. The Black Americana #3. I was thinking, in case anybody's wondering why a couple of white dudes are wishing each other Happy Black History Month, it should be a holiday that the entire country
Everybody.
celebrates, that we recognize the contribution. And what's kind of maybe just some weird personal bias, but I'm really pleased to see the way James and others, Ruby Johnson and so many others are, Natalie Elliott, bringing
in Atlanta,
bringing this field, to a community that typically has not thought very favorably of therapy in general.
No.
And the stigma in black communities about mental health and seeing a therapist, no less sex therapists.
Right.
And now, following the challenge that Judith Steinhardt laid down 20 years ago.
Oh, I remember that.
I remember standing up in a room saying, "Look around this room. Right. Why is it so white in here?"
That's right.
And the diversity that ASECT in particular has been showing over recent years, it's just been fantastic.
Yeah, it really has.
And then, I think our Jewish roots find a similar kind of connection to just this field, right? Why is it that there's so many...
Well, helping professionals in general. That's always been kind of a cultural ethos.
Yeah, but in particular,
entertainment
therapists,
and helping.
Right. I remember that story from Dr. Granzig, who just retired from running the American Academy of Clinical Sexologists, who... was telling a story about how, and even before World War II, like in the 19th century, Jews were still persecuted, and in universities and medical schools, they weren't allowed to have the rock star jobs like orthopedic surgeon or cardiologist.
Right.
So psychiatry was this kind of throwaway, like let the Jews have it, and most of the early psychiatrists and psychologists and sexologists, from Freud to Grafenberg and who was Marcus, what was the guy, started the biggest sexological library in history before the Nazis burned it down, and he was exiled.
See, now I'm blanking on it because you asked me.
Marcus, that's terrible. We should know these names. Hirschfeld. Right. I mean, imagine a giant museum, library dedicated to the study of sexology long before Kinsey and Masters and Johnson, but in Germany pre-World War II, only to have it entirely burned to the ground.
Sure. Well, you know where the world's largest collection of sexual and erotic art and literature is, right?
No.
In the Vatican.
Oh, that's right. That's very interesting.
In the Vatican, yeah.
What do you think that's about?
Well, making sure nobody else can see it.
Even like in India, I don't remember the name of this place either, but remember Mom and Dad were
where
there.
they had the frieze?
All of the images, the sculptured images completely surrounding the building.
They're all from the Kama Sutra.
Engaged in various positions from the Kama Sutra. And I thought, wow, how hip is that? That's where they go to pray. They have all these naked bodies twisted together, every position you can imagine. But I think it was Dr. Reddy who explained that, no, that's so you keep those thoughts outside the temple.
Right. They're not inside the temple.
You look at them outside, you go inside and put that out of your head.
Right.
Now it's time to pray.
Right, exactly. Right. And listen, before we go any further, I want to give out 2 numbers.
Yes.
The first, not only for professionals who are interested in training, but anybody who is interested in possibly some therapy or just try to work some issues out. You can contact Ricky at 561-809-1080. And if you would like to call us tonight, we don't have a guest, so the phone lines are going to be open. So give us a call tonight at 888-565-1470. All right, so tonight would be a good night to talk, chime in.
Grab the phone, 888-565-1470. We'd love to hear from you. Questions, comments, join the conversation, whatever's on your mind. It's Sex Talk.
Indeed.
So we're here for a half hour to talk about sex.
Right. And if people are thinking of sex every 6 seconds, you got a few minutes. So send some of it our way.
Something will bubble along.
Right. So what I would really like to start talking about tonight is, we have to, sort of keep hanging on to this idea of this sort of new male sexual revolution.
Yeah.
Right? It is so necessary in light of everything that we are hearing. It seems maybe to have died down a little bit. I think in the last 2 days, I haven't heard of a slew of men being charged with assault and harassment and all of that. Not that it's not happening, but maybe it's died down a little bit. And I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing. Because sometimes, as long as we're keeping it active and it's on the front page, we're thinking about it, we're talking about it, we're taking steps toward it. But I think in a lot of ways, once it leaves the headlines, we see this with HIV. It's no longer in the news anymore, so people kind of automatically assume it's done.
Yeah. That's always the problem.
So we don't want this to happen.
You have the attention span of a gnat.
The Me Too and the No More and all of this, I think, really wonderful stuff that's been going on, bringing this to light. Right? Now, at the risk of being politically incorrect and in just being fair and rational, I would have to say, as wonderful as all of this stuff is to have come out, are we not in some cases possibly leaning toward, and I hate to use it because so many idiots have used this word to defend themselves, but are we kind of in some cases leaning a little bit toward witch hunting? Are we maybe crossing some line? Are we conflating harassment and abuse with just being a jerk and hitting on somebody?
Yes. I think there's, the pendulum swing, and when it swings too far one way and it has to swing back the other before it settles out.
Right.
So like, in the old kind of 50s Mad Men era sexual harassment, the boss could walk past the secretary leaning over a file cabinet, smack her on the tush, and say, looking good there, sweet cakes.
Right.
And today he'd be fired and charged with all kinds of harassment suits.
Right.
And it's gotten to the point where someone is afraid to compliment a coworker, especially a male employee complimenting a female coworker. Oh, that dress is lovely. You're harassing me. And
right. But see, I think that's kind of been a situation for a very long time. I've been teaching for years that, with harassment, with something like that, just because a woman gets called sweetheart, that's not harassment.
But
there has to be a line in the sand.
Can't she argue that she's made to feel uncomfortable and that's a hostile workplace?
No, not by a single thing like that. She has to then kind of make it known. I don't appreciate being spoken to like that. A line has to be drawn in the sand.
Right.
And then if it's crossed, then it is harassment.
Yeah.
Now, something like unwanted physical contact, there's no repeat necessary.
Right.
That in and of itself is a problem. But I'm not even really talking about that stuff. It's really, I think it's moved into guys just hitting on women. Right? And that's kind of been rolled into all of this as well. But having said all of that, part of this sort of new male revolution and this new sort of male perspective we're advocating for is I would kind of like to see more men be okay with collateral damage, as it were.
What do you mean?
Meaning that, some of this is going to happen.
Yeah,
and
like
because
Al
it's
Franken, right?
Right, and we have to kind of accept that.
Sacrificial lamb, I think.
Right.
Wait 1 second. I think we have Jacob on the phone. Jacob, can you hear us?
Hey.
Hey, Jacob. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So I have a question that's kind of like not really having to do with what we were talking about just before, but it's like totally off topic. But I'm really curious because I don't know much about this.
Sure.
So within like things like the like STDs, and especially going into like HIV, why is it so much more prevalent within like the heterosexual communities or homosexual communities versus heterosexual communities?
Actually, it isn't anymore, which is It's really a powerful lesson about, again, stigma and people kind of depersonalizing their risk because, for 20 years there was such an idea that HIV and AIDS affected gay men, that heterosexuals said, nothing to worry about, I'm not gay. In fact, back in the 90s, the questions asked about, getting an HIV test, like, have you ever since 1978, ... So it was easy for people to go, no, I'm not gay, don't shoot drugs, never had gay sex while shooting drugs, never had a transfusion, no tattoos, I'm not at risk for this.
Right. And and let me say too that we have to understand that, especially in the 80s and through the 90s, HIV and AIDS were probably the first diseases that were far more political than they were medical.
Definitely.
And there was this sort of othering. There was this rhetoric about the politics of those people.
Exactly.
And that was kind of put out there. So if you were one of the 4 H's, as there was, the bumper sticker version,
right?
Homosexual, heroin user, Haitian, and hemophiliac. Right. And it's not that anybody had anything against hemophiliacs, it's just that there weren't enough of them to really matter, especially politically.
But that was also a really dramatic way to contract the virus because the clotting factor they need to live was made with donated blood.
Right. But in terms of those people that were created, and that came along with, if you're not one of those people, you don't have to worry about it. You're not at risk.
Right.
And that was never true. This was never a gay disease. This was never about IV drug users.
Especially if you look globally, it's a heterosexually transmitted STD like every other.
But that was the politics in 1980 when we had that coup d'etat, the bloodless coup, this conservative takeover, where this fit perfectly with that agenda. Right? And even though we saw this across all demographics, heterosexuals, old people, there was a grandmother that I remember in 1986.
It was Kimberly
Bergalis, absolutely. And it was all ignored because in favor of gay men and IV drug users, which were really the 2 main targets politically in those times.
Yeah.
So I think we've gotten over that. I think people have gotten, at least to a point where they understand that anybody can get this, right? If you allow the exposure to happen. But it's also not in the news anymore.
Yeah.
And there are treatments that have been successful. So I think we also are dealing with a new complacency.
Definitely. I think one of the biggest problems in the early years was separating HIV out from the STD picture.
Right.
Right? Like we say drugs and alcohol. We say STDs and AIDS. That people were, the proverbial headless chickens running around freaking out about HIV and AIDS and ignoring. Chlamydia exploded, herpes exploded.
Oh, all of them.
In fact, if I'm always, amused is a weird word to use, but thinking back on it, herpes first kind of crept into people's thinking in the mid-'70s, in the disco years,
mid-'70s,
75, 76.
Right.
So it was only 5-6 years later that HIV was seen, and all of a sudden nobody's talking about herpes anymore.
Well, because, again, people would say, herpes? Oh, thank God.
Right.
Gonorrhea? Oh, whew.
Yeah, there was that Robert Townsend, was that his name, from In Living Color? Did that bit? The guy's in the waiting room, the nurse comes out, they're all panicking. Mr. Smith, says, you have syphilis.
Yeah, high-fiving each other. I hope you get gonorrhea.
It's not HIV.
Right.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy.
So, again, it's nice that we're past all of that. I think we've evolved a little bit. But I think with millennials in particular, because it's not headline anymore, because it doesn't get that press, there is that sort of, sense of we don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
Or, if I get it, I can get rid of it.
Right. Doesn't matter because there's drugs now.
Right.
We should mention Truvada.
Yeah.
Right. I just saw something in the news that it was approved for women now as well. This is something that's referred to as PrEP.
PrEP.
Most medical professionals know about PEP,
Right.
which stands for post-exposure prophylaxis. That's part of that good AIDS you were talking about before. If a nurse was infected through a needle stick injury, then they would dose with these drugs to hopefully keep her from seroconverting and becoming infected. Now there is PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is this drug Truvada, that typically it was gay men who tended towards the promiscuous, who weren't big on condom use and were worried, would get put on the drug, which has been clinically shown to, does it eliminate the risk completely?
Well, it's 99%.
Prevents HIV infection.
Yeah, prevents transmission. Similarly to the maternal child transmission.
It offers some of that kind of ethics conflict because, on the part of the prescriber, are we encouraging people to not have, to not be safe and use condoms?
Well, go back to what you were saying
license
before.
To not use condoms?
Right? Go back to all those other STIs that get eliminated. So, okay, fine. If we can block the transmission of HIV, it's not going to do anything for anything else.
Yeah.
Right? So, this idea of, the value put on barebacking.
Right.
Every man can admit and acknowledge that intercourse is so much better without a condom.
Right.
However, again, we got to be realistic. It's not an inner tube.
Right.
It's not some big thick piece of rubber. It's really thin. If you don't have sensation with a condom, see a neurologist.
Right.
But it does take away some sensitivity. And again, maybe it's just me, but I think it's a small price to pay to not give or get anything to or from your partner.
Yeah, just you.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, again, this is another area where men should be the ones. There should never.
And by the way, I'm sorry, Jacob, if you're still listening, thank you so much for the call. We really appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. Not the sexiest subject, but a really important one. I mean, nobody wants to get an STD, but nobody wants to sit over dessert and candlelight on a first date and so you say, so, did you bring your latest test results? When was the last time you've been tested? Or maybe, I used to see this in the 90s, this kind of new dating ritual.
I was going to say,
we've been dating for 6 months, so we're going to go to the clinic together for our HIV test. Yeah.
I think that's, what? It at least also prompted conversation.
Yeah.
Prompted the discussion.
And, you might know the answer to this, but I've never been able to figure out why, just in the timing of things, the legal mandate that you had to have a blood test before you were issued a marriage license stopped.
Right.
Right when HIV
New Jersey,
came along.
I think still, if not, they kind of were the last one to do it. But that was...
Most people don't know that was for syphilis.
Yes,
that
that's
was
what
an
it was.
RPR
It was for
test
syphilis.
for syphilis.
Right.
So it used to, you have to have a blood test before you can get married to make sure you don't have syphilis. HIV comes along, no, you don't need a blood test anymore. It just seemed...
Well, because we sort of
weird
changed
timing.
well, not only that, but part of it is we changed sort of the concept of consent and responsibility. Because, again, with the syphilis and the blood test, it was you want to make sure that you're not going to infect your partner.
Right.
But with a lot of the HIV stuff, with the issues around confidentiality and consent and express consent for that particular testing and all that stuff that was sort of swirling around all of that, it kind of almost became a buyer beware type of situation.
Yeah.
You
remind me of these debates around Tarasoff type.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, well, that
therapists,
was kind of the argument.
Therapists are bound. There's a law called the Tarasoff law that was named for a case where a therapist heard from a patient that he was planning on committing this crime, kept it confidential, and the crime was committed.
Right.
So he killed this person. So now everybody in the field knows that the limits to our confidentiality, we can assure a patient that everything they say, everything we talk about is confidential, except if they talk about harming someone or themselves.
Imminent harm to themselves or others.
That's when we are legally obligated to drop a dime and break confidentiality. And we've both heard this for years. Therapists believe that applies to something like someone's HIV status. That if they hear a patient has HIV and they're having unprotected sex, I have to report that because you're putting people's lives in danger.
But not only reporting it to health authorities, but that stretched into that went into partner notification.
Well, no, that was more about surveillance.
No.
Right?
No, only
Well,
through
yeah.
public health.
If a test result came back positive, they tried to find out all of the
Now
partners.
they would ask you,
Yeah.
would you give the names and let us contact them and all that kind of stuff. But there are a lot of these individual therapists, these individual healthcare professionals who they do a test, the partner finds out, they notify their partner.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll say we do a confidentiality. We're not saying that Joe Smith has HIV, but they'll tell them, you know what, you should get tested because somebody very close to you tested positive for HIV, which is a bust.
It's like the Red Cross used to call, they'd send a letter, go and get tested. Right. We're not telling you you're HIV positive.
Right. No,
we just
get
got
tested.
a few minutes left.
Yeah.
I hate how fast this half
I know.
hour goes, but
we do have another caller.
Becky on the line.
Becky.
Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Becky and Boca. How
Becky
you
and
doing?
Boca. Thursday night, 6 o'clock, same bat time, same bat channel.
Did we have fun on your show the other night?
We
Thank
sure
you so
did.
much for having
You
us.
guys were fantastic. That was one of the best shows I've done. I had so much fun.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, we did too. We have to do it again.
Oh, absolutely. I have people that I know that watched the show and said they learned stuff. And we're
Good.
talking about people in their 40s and 50s.
Good. Like
Excellent.
I said when we were on our show, it's weird. We dudes should not know more about women's bodies than women do. But unfortunately, in our climate and lack of education.
And hopefully somebody learned a little bit something about the clitoris.
Hopefully.
Oh, people did.
Yeah, good.
They're telling me, yes.
Dr. Ruth has always said, don't forget the clitoris. It's very, very important. You pay attention to the clitoris.
Well, I'm going to have to come on your show and we'll discuss it again.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That is it. We will pick a Monday very soon.
Okay. I'm listening to your show. You guys are great.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so much,
much.
Becky.
Really appreciate the support.
Talk to you later.
All righty. Have a good one.
All right. So we just got a couple minutes.
Yeah, a couple minutes left.
We're going to have to find a way to make this show an hour.
Yeah.
It just goes by too fast.
So, well, again, it comes down to money. We need to get that sponsor.
Hopefully.
So hopefully somebody listening may know somebody, may have something, come our way.
Yes, we would be grateful for if those of you listening on Facebook would click that like button and the share button. And please help us get some numbers so we can attract some sponsors.
Right. But this is going to be a dialogue that we're going to make a point of continuing and keeping on the front burner. We need this revolution in masculinity.
Yeah. People just have to stop huffing and rolling their eyes when they bring up the subject of sexual and reproductive health and go, ugh, women's stuff.
Right.
This is people's stuff.
Right.
And we have to be sexually healthy, not just in clinical measures like not having STDs and getting checkups and practicing good health and hygiene, but attitudes, sexually healthy attitudes about women, about ourselves.
Yeah.
About peacocking and how ridiculous guys are when they peacock.
Absolutely. And again, it's natural. There really is kind of a biological element to it, but we have this wonderful capacity for self-control.
And restraint.
Right?
And being responsible men.
Yes.
And growing up. Thank
to
you.
Be continued.
Indeed. Thank you for joining us. Please join us again next Monday and every Monday at 9 o'clock for Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Thank you, my Drew.
My pleasure. Thank you.
See you next week.
Great night, great week.
Think sexy thoughts.
Always.
Rescue at 800-511-DOGS or EvergladesAngelsDogRescue.org.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. It is Monday night. And here you are with me again. It's 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hello to all of our viewers in social media world. I am Ann Charlius of Shero Rising, and I am so excited to be here tonight. Last week was pretty tough for me health-wise. But you know what? You guys keep me going. You guys keep me motivated. So for everyone in social media, you know what it means. It means hit that share button, share this out. And for our listeners on iHeartRadio and traditional radio, I want to welcome you in this evening. Also, it is always a pleasure to be here. And I hope you guys are having a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful new month. Listen, we're in a new year and it's a new month. And I don't know about you, but 2018 seems to be going pretty quickly. It's going pretty fast. All steam ahead. And, you know, for me, as the author of Wonder Woman Your Goals, goal setting is something that I am passionate about. And the start of this year really has highlighted how important it is to take a look at your resolutions, take a look at your goals, take a look at your dreams, day in and day out, day in and day out. They need to stay in front of you because time goes by quickly. And so, listen, we are excited to be on the home of 1470 AM, 95.3 FM. If you are in the local area from Boca Raton to Aventura in the East Corridor, I want to welcome you. Thank you for coming in. We're going through a transition period. Listen, this is a new year. But guess what? It's also new transformation for us here at Zero to Shiro. A lot of things are happening behind the scenes, and we're going to emerge in our new season totally transformed. But you know, the heart of the message, the heart of it is still going to be the same. The heart is going to be to inspire, to motivate, to equip you and give you the tools that you will need to soar. Are you ready to soar? Are you ready to finally make this the year that you are living your best life yet? I know for me, I made a concerted effort to really say that, you know what, I'm definitely going to change things up this year. I'm going to definitely do things that I've never done before. And I encourage you to do the same. Because it's quite easy. It's very easy for us to say in status quoville. This is where we do the same thing. We show up the same way. And you know what? We don't have time for that anymore. And you know, this is something that I have been sharing with my clients. This is something that I have been sharing with my friends and my colleagues. How are you going to show up differently this year? How are you going to do it? Are you going to show up differently by finally finding your voice and making your voice plain in what you're speaking into your life? Or are you going to kind of just be a wallflower and let life happen to you? You know, I hope that you do the first. I hope that you really do find your voice. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about an important topic. If you are an entrepreneur, or maybe you are a person who aspires to be an entrepreneur, whatever the case may be, tonight's topic is going to be very important for you because it's really going to help equip you to really start a business or continue a business that is going to thrive. And so for me, I'm in an interesting place in my business. Right now, a year and about 5 months into my business, I'm in the stage called efficiency moving to scale. And we're going to talk about that because I'm dealing, if I can have a transparent moment, with some real growing pains. Now, listen, I'm not complaining about these growing pains. I feel very fortunate because I would rather deal with growing pains than death pains, right? And not having a successful, thriving business. But nonetheless, I'm still living and dealing with these growing pains. So let's first start about talking about these stages. Number one is the discovery stage. This is when you first are setting up your business. This is when you are confirming whether you are solving a meaningful problem. This is in the early infancy, the startup stage, where you're saying, you know what? I have this amazing idea, and I truly believe that it can provide a solution to a problem, and that solution can be meaningful. And you know, for me, that was a critical stage in my business, because when I started a year and about 5 months ago, I'm going to be very frank with you, I thought maybe the market was oversaturated. There are so many people out there calling themselves a business coach. There are so many people calling themselves a success strategist. The market is just inundated, right? And so I actually did go through the process of asking myself, what makes me so different? How can I differentiate myself? Am I providing a unique solution for the entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs? Because that solution, that difference should be impactful. It should be meaningful. So that's the first stage of your growth as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. The second stage that you have to go through is called validation. Validation is where you are seeking to confirm that people are actually interested in your service and product. Because listen, guys, yes, you may have a problem. Yes, you may have a meaningful solution. But if the market, if the masses, if the people don't believe or are interested in your service and product, you have nothing. You have nothing. And so your second stage is called validation. This is where you seek out to make sure that people are in fact interested in your product and or service. The third stage is efficiency. This is where you refine your business model and improve efficiency. You really are in the heat of the game as it pertains to customer acquisition. And this really is the stage that I'm in. I'm closing out this stage where I'm figuring out exactly what is the ideal client for me. What is the systematic sales process? How do we make sure that it's a system that runs efficiently, effectively? That is key. And so the efficiency process, listen, we can't jump into scale. We can't jump into other things without making sure that we are refining our business model. What is your business model? Is your business model products? Is your business model service oriented? Is your business model online? Does it include a brick and mortar? You have to figure out what that model is. You have to fine tune that. And then you're ready for scale. And you know what? I'm in that process right now, getting geared up for scale. And I'm going to be quite frank, it's scary. It's very scary because I don't know about you, but I'm a little bit of a control freak, just a little bit. And in order to scale your business, you're going to have to pass over the baby to someone else or to other people. You're going to have to remove yourself from the equation. And you're going to have to realize that no one's going to do it exactly like you. Don't set yourself up for misery because you're expecting that your team is going to do it exactly like you. It's not going to happen. They're not you. Okay? So during this stage, this is when you really start driving growth. You really start acquiring clients, customers, patients, whatever the business in is, aggressively. Now, I will tell you that you have to be very careful that you do not do this too soon, because you can grow your business too quickly, too soon, and it falls under its own weight. And we don't want to see that happen. I know you don't want to see that happen. You've worked really hard for your business, and so you definitely don't want to see that happen. Now, for many of us, we are looking for angel investors. We are looking for investors, venture capitalists. And here's the thing. Oftentimes, we seek those things out way too soon. And I'm here to tell you that the bulk of venture capital funding is available in stage 4. So if you're looking for venture capital funding for the discovery stage, stage 1, the validation stage, stage 2, the efficiency stage, stage 3, it's likely not going to happen. Investors and venture capitalists join the fray when you are in stage 4. This is where you've already created a meaningful solution, you've already validated it, you've already created a business model, and now investors are interested in moving to the next stage. Now, each stage also comes with X amount of employees that are involved. Usually in that scale stage, that last stage, you're looking at 17 or more employees. On the lower stages, stage 1, you may only have 1 employee. Stage 2, 3 or 4. Stage 4, 3, 4 or more. But when you get to scale, it's all systems go. And you're looking at about 17 employees on average. Now, how many months? What can you expect? Well, on average, what the studies show us is that stage 1 usually takes about 7 months. Stage 2, usually about 11 months. Stage 3, 17 months. And by 25 months is when you're really at stage 4. And so, it's so interesting. Oftentimes, social media, I love social media. I get a bulk of my clients from social media. But I'm here to tell you, sometimes the memes send you on the wrong track. The memes make it seem like it's easy. And I'm here to tell you that it's grind and it's hustle time. That in order to really grow your business, you have to roll up your sleeve and hustle a little bit harder. You have to push a little bit harder. And so that is so, so important. But it is possible. It is completely possible. However, it's important to know that there is a process and a system for everything that you're trying to do in your business. Now, for me, the scale process has started with me interviewing a lot of candidates to bring into the team who I could then teach the system so that I don't have to be involved in the day-to-day operations. I can be the big picture, the visionary. The other part is really sitting down and creating a system. I've spoken to so many entrepreneurs in the past year, and so many of them, they don't have what they do solemnized in writing. They are shooting from the hip. They are doing it using an ad hoc method, and they're really not setting themselves up for success by really putting into black and white exactly what they do. And that's so important, because you need to know that even if you're unavailable, because you're on an international trip, because you fall ill, that your business can still move forward. It's still functioning. And so as a result, I've had to have that, come to Jesus meeting as they call it, even for myself, because the past 4 weeks has been very trying for me. 2 weeks I was traveling. 1 week I had the flu. Now my chronic anemia is acting up. And so it's been one thing after another. And so I'm doing my very best to keep the train going. But what it has done, and what I'm thankful for, even though it's a little frustrating, but what I'm thankful for is that I'm given an opportunity now to really see why it's so important that even though it's incredibly uncomfortable, it is essential that I actually scale my business and that I create a team and system that can operate without me. Operate without me. And I want to encourage you to start doing this self-reflection now. It's February. It's a great time to really set up, because see, here's the thing. The success that you see at the end of the year, when you see at the end of the year during the holiday season, companies are breaking records, they're doing so well, understand that a lot of it has to do with the work that they're putting in now. Not the work that they put in November, but the work that they're putting in now. That is so, so essential. And it's very frustrating. It can be very scary because so many entrepreneurs are not successful, right? By year 5, by year 10, 96% failure rate. And so a lot of that failure rate, though, I have to say has to do with decisions that we are making. That really are not setting us up to be successful. And so we got to take that mirror out, and we really have to be self-reflective on exactly what it's going to take for us to be successful. Now, I have some good news. Yes, I do. I do have some good news. I am traveling to New York this week. I am flying out on Thursday. I'm very excited about that. It is a business trip that is going to be fast and furious. So if you are in New York City, definitely hit me up, DM me, inbox me. Let me know that you would love to get together and meet up while I'm in New York City. I would love to learn more about what you're doing as an entrepreneur. And listen, maybe you will be a future guest. You never ever do know, now do you? And if you know any fun things that I can do maybe at night when business is over in New York City, definitely inbox me that also. You know, I do plan to talk about kind of my travel and what I've learned over the course of the past few months. But you know, one of the things that I can tell you, a little sneak peek when I do that special where we talk about my Asia trip, is that one thing that I love is that we definitely are more alike than we are different. Can I say that again? We are definitely more alike than we are different. And that is so, so inspiring because, you know, what it teaches me is that, you know, we as entrepreneurs, we definitely do have a global community. And sometimes outsourcing and working outside of the U.S. can sometimes get a bad rap. But the reality is that if done correctly, it can actually help flourish entrepreneurs and the economy here in the U.S. And you know, the entrepreneurship community is thriving and growing. In fact, they did a study between individuals that are 18 to 64 years old, that's 18 to 64, and they have found that 110 million people said that they were in the process of starting a business. And you know, that is truly music to my ears. And it's so encouraging to know that so many people are amped up, are encouraged to really get into entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is not just something I talk about, it's something in my blood. As you guys know, both of my parents, mother and father, were great, successful entrepreneurs that came to this country with nothing. And so I know the power of entrepreneurship and the opportunities and the generational uplift and elevation that can be created by it. Now, if you're just tuning in, I would like to welcome you. And please, if you're on social media, we ask you to hit that share button. Share this message out. Go ahead and bless someone on your timeline with this message. You know, for those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name, Ann, A-N-N, Charleus, C-H-A-R-L-E-U-S. That's Charlie S. You know, my clients call me the mogul maker, the wealth creator, and the queen of cash flow. I get excited. About entrepreneurship. You know, I started my career in corporate America and climbed the ladder pretty quickly, getting my first corporate directorship position before I even was able to drink by the age of 20. I've owned multiple successful businesses. I am the former director of legal and public affairs for the Minority Chamber of Commerce, where I represented over 5,000 businesses, both large and small, everyone from a startup to professional sports teams like the Florida Marlins. In addition, I'm a 3-time award-winning business coach. Of course, I have this amazing radio show. But in addition to that, I'm also a live streamer. I am a VIP influencer on Periscope. So you can always catch me on all social media at She Row Rising. Once again, that is She Row Rising. So we are in February. Drop in the comment box if you're watching this via live stream. What is your business goals for 2018? What are your business goals? Now, if you're too afraid to actually type in your business goals, then I ask you, how serious are you in achieving that goal if you can even declare it? Declaration is really the first step. You got to claim it first in order to achieve it. And it can be scary sometimes. I totally get it. And, you know, we have so many personality types, so many different types of people start businesses. And, you know, these different personality types really run the gamut. But one thing is for sure, and one thing is for certain, is that no matter what business you're getting into, whether it's in the creative world like fashion, or maybe it's in the tech world, whatever it is, maybe it's STEM, you really have to sit down and really create a vision. You know, some of us call it resolutions, some of us call it goals, but, you know, many of us call it a vision, call it a plan, call it a dream, whatever word you would like to use. Whatever that is, definitely grab a pad, write it down, put it in a place where you're going to see it daily, where you're going to meditate over it, where you're going to affirm it. That is so critical to your own success. That is so critical for your own achievement. I've done it for myself. I haven't finished my vision board for the year, but it will be finished before I leave to New York City. One day at a time, we can come together as entrepreneurs and be successful. Now, if you have ideas, yes, this is your time to make your voice heard. If you have ideas about the direction this show should go, If you have ideas about potential guests to have on the show, if you have ideas about topics that you would like for us to address, drop it in the comment box. Drop it in the comment box. We would love to hear from you. We would love for this to be a tribe and a community that's about learning, that's about growing. And it starts with you sharing your very, very special voice. Now, you guys know how to reach me. You guys know who I am. You guys know that I am going to be traveling to New York City. So I'm really excited about that. I haven't been to New York City in, the Brooklyn, Manhattan area since I was in probably high school. So it's really, really exciting. I'm going to be meeting with some amazing people. One of the people that I'm going to be meeting with, I want to give a little shout out to, is Leslie Garcia of Counseling Space. Hey, Leslie, how are you, girl? I cannot wait to see you in person for our very special VIP day. But, the reality is, whether you live in New York City or Miami, whether you're in Malaysia, Singapore, Dubai, Africa, South America, the Caribbean, Australia, no matter where you find yourself, entrepreneurship is the new black. Yes, it is. Can we say it together? Entrepreneurship is the new black. And we are the trailblazers that are going to be opening up opportunities for growth, not just for ourselves, because that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. It's not just about ourselves. It's about the people that we're able to impact, employees, customers, clients. In addition to the people that we're able to impact, it's about the innovation, the technology, the new knowledge that we're able to impart that's going to make a lasting impact and everlasting legacy for all of those that we come in contact with. So are you ready? Are you ready to make 2018 the best year yet? Now, you guys, you know my time slot, you know my day, you know to join us again on Monday, this coming Monday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you would like to connect with me, don't be afraid to go ahead and follow me, inbox me, DM me. I am on all social media as Shero Rising, SHERO. That's Shero Rising. Not heroes, but Sheroes. We are female superheroes. We're going to be taking over the boardrooms all across the world. And it starts with you and I. You have a beautiful evening, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place. Bye.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program